The click of the handcuffs didn't just echo through the marble foyer. It cracked an empire in half. Billionaire Victor Hale had been untouchable 5 minutes earlier, wearing an Italian suit like armor. Now, 2 officers yanked him forward, his cuffs flashing under the chandelier as he snarled, "You're making a mistake. Let me go." Across the room stood the only person not dressed for power. Denise Carter, the black nanny, in a pale blue uniform still wearing bright yellow cleaning gloves. And in her trembling arms, a 6-month-old baby Noah sensed the terror and began to wail, sharp and desperate. "Mr. Hale." Denise stepped forward, then stopped, instinct locking her to the floor like roots. Victor twisted his head, eyes searching for the one face he trusted. "Don't let them take him," he rasped. "Protect my son." That's when Celeste Vaughn appeared at the top of the staircase, perfect as a magazine cover, a silk scarf pressed to her eyes like she'd been practicing tears for weeks. "Money laundering," she whispered loudly for the officers to hear. "Fraud. They told me everything. You broke my heart." Victor froze. Because Celeste wasn't shocked. She was calm, calculating. And for one split second, while the cops looked away, her mouth curved into a smile that didn't belong at a man's arrest. As Victor was shoved into the patrol car, he shouted one last time, voice raw, "Denise, don't let her near Noah. I'm counting on you." Denise held the baby tighter. The mansion door closed behind her with a sound even colder than the cuffs. And in that moment she understood something simple and brutal. The rich had lawyers. But Noah only had her. Denise hadn't even had time to breathe before the sound of heels began to rule the house. Click, click, click. Celeste Vaughn stood in the empty foyer like she owned the air itself. The scarf was gone. The tears were gone. Her eyes, flat, polished, cold, moved from Denise's trembling arms to the yellow gloves like they offended her. "Close the door," Celeste said. "You're letting in bugs." Denise obeyed, and the heavy door latched with a final ugly thud. For a heartbeat, the mansion felt smaller than Denise's childhood apartment. "Mrs. Vaughn, we need to call Mr. Hale's attorney." Denise tried rocking Noah as his cries stuttered. "Mr. Garcia, he'll know what to do." Celeste didn't even look up. She tapped her phone, voice crisp. "Security, 10 minutes. I want every employee off this property. Cooks, gardeners, housekeeping, everyone. Change the access codes, now." She ended the call and finally turned, scanning Denise like a stain. "Why are you still standing here?" Celeste asked. "Did you miss the part where you're fired?" Denise's stomach dropped, not for herself, but for the baby. "Ma'am. Noah. Mr. Hale told me to protect him. He needs—" Celeste stepped closer, perfume sharp enough to sting. "You think I'm going to waste my life changing diapers?" she hissed, looking at Noah like he was a broken appliance. "Victor's accounts will be frozen by morning. This house is a legal war zone and I'm not carrying dead weight." Denise's voice came out small. "He's just a baby." Celeste smiled, thin and cruel. "2 options. Option A. You put him back in his crib, grab your junk, and leave. I'll call child services in an hour and let the state deal with him." She leaned in. Option B. You take him. Right now. Disappear. No severance. No back pay. Not 1 cent. Noah's crying slowed. His tiny hand found Denise's glove and squeezed. Denise looked into his wide, wet eyes and made the only choice her heart could live with. "I'm taking him," she said, steady now. Celeste waved her off like smoke. 5 minutes. And don't steal anything, or you'll join your precious boss in a cell. Denise didn't walk out of that mansion, she fled it like the walls had teeth. She sprinted upstairs with Noah pressed to her chest, his warm breath damp against her collarbone. The nursery looked like a catalog dream, hand-painted clouds, imported toys, a crib that cost more than Denise's yearly rent. She grabbed the beat-up duffel she kept for her own things and stuffed it fast, a half-open pack of diapers, a couple cans of formula blankets, anything that felt like time. Her hands moved on pure adrenaline. Then she saw it. A worn old teddy bear on the dresser, nothing like the fancy toys. Victor had insisted it was special. Denise didn't argue. She just shoved it deep into the bag and whispered, "We're not staying here, baby." Back downstairs, the foyer was empty. Celeste had already vanished, probably hunting for the safe. Denise pushed the front doors open and the night hit her like a slap. No driver, no security. Just a dark street and a city that suddenly looked enormous when you're a broke woman carrying someone else's child. Her work shoes slapped the pavement as she passed through the iron gates. The mansion glowed behind her, cold and perfect, like it had never known love. Denise peeled off the yellow gloves and shoved them into her pocket. Her hands were raw, but free. At the bus stop, her stomach twisted. No cash, no wallet. Celeste had thrown her out with nothing but the clothes on her back. When the old bus finally hissed to a stop, the driver eyed Denise's maid uniform. Then Noah wrapped in a blanket that screamed money. Denise opened her palm. A few coins. That's it. "Get on," the driver grunted like he regretted having a heart. Inside, the bus rattled away from manicured streets into harsher neighborhoods, bright storefronts fading into industrial gray. Noah's hunger rose with every mile, his whimpers turning sharp. Denise bounced him gently, voice cracking. "Hold on, sweetheart. Just a little longer." Because she'd crossed a line now, and going back wasn't an option. 2 weeks passed. But in Denise Carter's world, time didn't move in days. It moved in shortages. By night, her tiny rented room felt like a box that breathed hot air and bad luck. Rain hammered the tin roof so hard it sounded like gravel dumped from the sky. Water slipped through new leaks, dripping into dented pots Denise had lined up across the floor like soldiers. In the dim light, Noah's cries weren't the strong, demanding wails from that first bus ride. They were smaller now. Tired. The kind that makes your chest hurt because you can't fix it fast enough. Denise sat on the edge of the sagging mattress and counted what was left on the crooked table. $32 in crumpled bills and coins. That had to be formula, diapers, food, bus fare, everything. She rubbed her eyes with the heel of her hand, then checked Noah's skin. The cheap diapers she could afford had left him raw. The good ointment ran out days ago. A neighbor's home remedy helped for a minute. Then the redness came back angrier. "Hey," Denise whispered, forcing her voice. "Steady. I got you. I'm right here." Noah's forehead was warm. Not burning, but enough to scare her. Across the city, Victor Hale lived the same 2 weeks in reverse. Not in a nursery-turned nightmare inside a concrete cage. Stripped of his suit, his watch, his name. A worn orange uniform, scratching skin that had never known rough fabric. 4 hardened men staring like he was fresh meat. Victor didn't pray for money. He didn't pray for freedom. He prayed for one thing. "Please," he whispered into the dark. "Let Denise have my son. If Celeste gets him, he's gone." That night, the storm didn't just pound the roof, it hunted for anything Denise loved. Noah finally drifted off, cheek pressed to her collarbone, his tiny breaths fogging the air in soft bursts. Denise reached for the only comfort she'd managed to save from the mansion the old teddy bear Victor had called special. It was supposed to be a distraction, a little piece of the life Noah had lost. But after 2 weeks of dirt floors, leaky ceilings, and hands that cooked and cleaned with the same exhaustion, the bear looked exhausted too, gray, damp, and sad. Noah's fingers grabbed it, clumsy and desperate, and in one careless drop it splashed into a fresh puddle beneath a new leak. "No, no, no," Denise hissed, dropping to her knees. She scooped it up heavier than it should have been, waterlogged like a stone. Frustration rose in her throat because even the smallest kindness kept getting ripped away. She carried the bear to the sink and twisted its belly hard to wring it out. That's when she felt it. Not stuffing, not cotton. Something solid, rectangular, cold. Denise froze hands locked around the bear's soaked body. Her heart thudded so loud she couldn't hear the rain anymore. Victor's voice flashed in her memory. "Protect my son. I'm counting on you." And then another image, Victor days before the arrest, never letting that bear out of his sight. Not in the nursery, not even in his office. Denise grabbed the kitchen knife she used to slice bread and stared at the bear like it was about to confess. "I'm sorry," she whispered. One careful cut along the seam, and her fingers found metal. She pulled. A sleek silver USB drive slid onto the table, wrapped in waterproof plastic, and beside it a small gold key stamped with a number 742. Denise sat back, shaking, because suddenly the storm wasn't the scariest thing in that room anymore. The truth was, Denise didn't sleep. She sat in a hard chair with the kitchen knife on her lap, the USB warm against her skin, and the gold key digging into her pocket like a warning. At dawn, she wrapped Noah tight, tucked the drive into her bra, and walked fast toward a tiny internet cafe 2 blocks over the kind that smells like cheap disinfectant and overheated computers. Her hands shook so badly she missed the port twice. Then the screen blinked. Device detected. A folder opened. A video file stared back at her like an eye watch if something goes wrong. She clicked. Victor Hale's face filled the screen, tense, haunted. He spoke like a man recording his own funeral. Celeste had been moving money under his name, forging signatures, setting him up. And then his voice dropped. He begged whoever found this to keep Noah away from her. Denise's throat tightened so hard she could barely breathe. She hurried copied every file to her email. Backup. Proof. Survival. And that's when a voice behind her turned her blood to ice. "Hey, isn't that the billionaire from the news?" A teenage kid leaned over her shoulder, eyes glued to the frozen frame of Victor's face. He raised his voice too loud. "Yo Beto, she's watching the rich guy. They say there's a reward." Denise yanked the USB out like it was burning her and scooped Noah up. She didn't argue. She didn't explain. She ran. Because in her neighborhood, secrets had a price tag, and loyalty didn't. Across town, Celeste was already tearing the mansion apart, searching for what Victor hid. When the realization hit her, the teddy bear, she didn't cry. She dialed a number that wasn't saved. "Find Denise Carter," she said, calm as poison. "Bring me the bag, no witnesses." And somewhere behind Denise, engines began to growl. "Before we go any further, hit like, subscribe, and tell me where you're watching from." Because this is the moment Denise stopped running and started fighting back. The North County Detention Center rose out of the city like a slab of gray concrete, wrapped in razor wire and heat shimmer. Denise stood in the visitors' line, before sunrise palms, sweating stomach tight, wearing a borrowed dress that didn't fit right, and courage that barely fit in her chest. She'd left Noah with an elderly nun at a small church across town, the only place that felt untouchable. A guard flipped through her papers and smirked. "Victor Hale doesn't want visitors." Denise leaned in, voice low and steady. "Tell him it's about his son." That got her through. Inside the visitation room, thick glass and dirty fluorescent lights turned everyone into ghosts. When Victor was led in, Denise almost forgot to breathe. The billionaire was gone. In his place sat a man with a bruised eye, split lip, and a shaved head that made him look older, smaller, like prison had chewed him up and spit him back. Victor grabbed the phone, eyes unfocused. "I said no." Denise pressed her hand to the glass. "Mr. Hale." His head snapped up. For a second his face cracked open. "Denise, Noah, where is he?" "Safe," she whispered. "Hidden somewhere holy. Celeste's men came to my place. They wrecked everything. But we got out." Victor's terror flashed. "You have to leave the state. Run." Denise shook her head once. "I'm done running. I found the teddy bear." Silence. Victor's mouth went dry. "You saw the video." "I saw everything Denise said. I have the USB. I have the key." Victor swallowed hard. "The bank will be watched. If they catch you." "They won't," Denise cut in, eyes locked on his. "But I need time. 2 days." Victor leaned closer, voice breaking. "What do you need from me?" Denise lifted her chin. "When your crooked lawyer visits, You act like you're surrendering. Make them believe you'll sign. Buy me 2 days. And through that glass, the man who once owned the world nodded, because for the first time, Denise was the one holding the plan. Denise walked into the financial district like she belonged there, because today looking powerless would get her killed. The cathedral clock boomed 9 times as glass towers caught the morning sun, and Denise checked her reflection in a storefront window. A charcoal gray suit hung a little loose on her shoulders, donation bin fabric, not designer, but with her hair pulled into a tight bun and cheap dark glasses on her nose, she didn't look like a nanny anymore. She looked like someone's executive assistant with a deadline and no patience. She pushed through the revolving doors of Garcia and Partners and rode the elevator to the 12th floor. The gold key stamped 742 burning in her purse like a live coal. At reception, the clerk barely looked up. "Can I help you?" Denise leaned forward, voice clean and controlled. "I need Gustavo Garcia. Tell him I'm here on behalf of Victor Hale. And tell him I have the teddy key." That phrase, half code, half prayer, changed everything. 5 minutes later, she sat across from a 70-year-old lawyer with snow-white eyebrows and a stare sharp enough to cut glass. Gus Garcia turned the little gold key under a jeweler's loop, then looked at her like he was seeing fire, where everyone else saw ash. "This key is a family legend," he muttered. "Whoever holds it, holds the vault." "Celeste Vaughn is hunting it," Denise said, swallowing hard. "And she's hunting me." Gus exhaled through his nose, thinking fast. "If we walk into the central bank, her people inside will light up like Christmas." Denise's jaw tightened. "Victor's rotting in a cell. Noah's hidden with nuns. We don't get a safer day." For a beat, Gus studied her tired eyes. Steady hands, nothing to lose. Then he stood, grabbed his cane and hat, and smiled like a man who'd been waiting years to settle a score. "All right," he said. "Let's go steal the truth back." The central bank felt less like a building and more like a warning marble floors, steel doors, cameras every few feet, and John guards gripping shotguns like they were part of the decor. Gus rolled in first, insisting on a wheelchair for speed, even though Denise could tell the old man had plenty of bite left in his legs. Denise stayed close eyes scanning reflections in polished stone. The bank manager's smile twitched when he saw the key. "Box 742, Gus announced credentials." Steady voice, louder than it needed to be. The manager typed, swallowed, and a tiny red light blinked on his monitor. Denise leaned in, barely moving her lips. "He's alerting someone." Gus didn't blink. "I know. We've got 5 minutes." Down in the vault, the air turned cold and metallic. Denise's fingers were slick with sweat as she slid the gold key into the lock. Click. The sound snapped through the silence like a gunshot. She pulled the box free, heavier than she expected, and opened it at a private table. No cash, no diamonds, folders, originals, a handwritten notebook, an external drive. Denise flipped one document and felt her stomach drop Victor's forged signature clean and perfect. Then the notebook, Celeste's own handwriting, neat as a surgeon, listing amounts and offshore accounts like a grocery list. Gus went pale. This takes down more than her." "Then we move," Denise whispered, shoving everything into her bag. But upstairs the lobby had changed. Guards were tense, radios crackling. The revolving door was blocked. Gus's phone rang. Unknown number. He put it on speaker. Gustavo Celeste purred. "I know you're inside. I know you're with the nanny." Denise's blood ran cold. Celeste continued, sweet as poison. "2 options. Back exit, hand over the bag, and you live. Or front exit, and watch what I've arranged." A pause. "And Denise, there's an arrest warrant waiting for you. Kidnapping. The second you step out, you go to jail and never see Noah again." The call died. Denise looked at Gus, eyes wet but furious. "If I walk out, I'm done." Gus grabbed her shoulders, surprising her with his strength. "Exactly. That's why you're going to walk out first." He slid a manila envelope from his briefcase. "Put the originals in here. I'll carry the real fire. You carry the decoy." Denise swallowed hard. "So I'm the bait." Gus's gaze didn't flinch. "You're the hero. And heroes buy time." Denise straightened her spine, pulled off the dark glasses, and nodded once. "Let's make it loud." Denise stepped through the revolving doors into noon sunlight, like she was walking onto a stage because she was. The plaza in front of the central bank looked wrong. Too empty. Too quiet. Like the city had been told to look away. 20 yards out, a black limousine waited at the curb, and beside it stood Celeste Vaughn, in a flawless white dress, her smile sharp enough to draw blood. 2 uniformed officers flanked her, and her crooked attorney hovered at her shoulder, already confident. Celeste called out loud for everyone to hear, "Look at you playing executive in charity clothes. It's adorable." Denise hugged the bag to her chest, making sure the cameras caught it. She stopped 5 feet away, chin up, voice steady. "It's over, Celeste. I have proof. I know you forged Victor's signature. I know you stole the money." Celeste laughed low, icy. "Proof you're a nanny who kidnapped a baby. Who's going to believe you?" Then she leaned close, dropping her voice to a whisper only Denise could hear. "Last chance. Give me the bag. There's $500,000 in cash in that car. Take it. Disappear. I'll drop the kidnapping charge. You'll be rich and free." For a heartbeat, Denise felt the weight of that offer. A lifetime of rent paid. Food without counting pennies. A life where Noah never cried from hunger again. But she remembered the tin roof, the fevered forehead, the glass between her and Victor in that prison room. Denise opened the bag. Celeste's hand shot out greedy, and Denise pulled out not documents, just the battered teddy bear still stained from rain and dirt. She lifted it high so the whole plaza could see. "In your world," Denise said, voice rising, "money buys everything. In mine, dignity isn't for sale." Celeste's face snapped from smug to savage. "Arrest her. Now." The officer slammed Denise to the pavement, cuffs biting into her wrists. She didn't fight their hands. She fought with her voice. "Victor Hale is innocent," she shouted. "Check the accounts. She's the thief." Celeste tore into the bag like a predator, dumping out junk papers. Nothing. No originals. No drive. Her breath hitched, panic flashing behind her perfect mask. And then, over Celeste's shoulder, Denise saw it. A yellow cab pulling away at the curb. Inside, Gus Garcia clutched a manila envelope like it was the last heartbeat on earth. Celeste screamed, pointing, "Stop that taxi!" Too late. Denise tasted blood on her lip, and smiled anyway, because the truth was already gone. And now it was coming for Celeste. The courtroom didn't breathe until the doors slammed open. Gus Garcia limped in like a man carrying thunder, followed by federal agents, and a judge with a face carved from stone. Cameras swung. The prosecutor froze mid-sentence. Celeste Vaughn's fake grief cracked for the first time, just a blink of panic, because Gus wasn't holding opinions. He was holding originals. A technician cued the footage. The room went dark. And then Celeste's own voice filled the speakers, cold, laughing, confessing. The jury didn't need a lecture. They could hear the cruelty in every syllable. They could see her practicing Victor Hale's signature like a student rehearsing a lie. When the lights came back on, Celeste looked naked. No scarf, no tears, no mask. "Release Victor Hale," the federal judge ordered. "Release Denise Carter. Arrest Celeste Vaughn." Those handcuffs clicked again, this time on the right wrists. Victor didn't pose for the cameras. He didn't shake hands. He ran straight to Denise. And right there on that dirty courthouse floor, the man who once ruled boardrooms dropped to his knees in front of the woman who scrubbed his sinks. He took her battered hands like they were sacred. "You saved my son," he whispered, breaking. "You saved me." Hours later, at a quiet convent, Noah lifted his arms and babbled Dada. Victor sobbed into his baby's hair. Denise stood in the doorway, finally letting her shoulders fall. And when Victor turned and said, "We're a team," it wasn't charity. It was truth. Real wealth isn't what you can lock in a vault. It's who you protect when nobody's watching, and what you refuse to sell even when the price could change your life. Loyalty and courage don't trend for a day. They build a legacy. If this story hit your heart, tell me in the comments. What would you have done? Take the money or take the truth? And if you believe the world still needs more, Denise Carter's subscribe and turn on notifications, because the next story might remind you what you're made of.